Hey, hey, welcome to our Whip Wednesday Sew and Chat. I am starting at an odd time because I just had the Quiltmas premiere of my project, and that ran for about 15 minutes. And I promised everybody that I would go live afterwards. So I know the thumbnail picture scheduled time was 4:30 Mountain. And we're a little bit ahead of that, but just run it in the background if you need to go say hi to family or get your dinner or whatever's going on. Hello, hello, Julianne. Good to see you. I am, I'm waiting for my friend Lori to show up, which she just did, and I'm about to have a coughing fit. I apologize. I have to say a huge special public thank you to Lori. I always throw out my book recommendations while I'm babbling on my live stream. And she sent me this book. Talk about a fabulous surprise, was getting a book in the mail. She says it's one of her favorite authors, Natasha Lester, and it's called The Mademoiselle Alliance. And this is like the perfect type of story that I like to read. Spies in World War II. Lori, you are fabulous. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. But we are sewing tonight, and on here, let me do a little bit of show and tell. My earlier video showed this present block, which is part of my holidays with, as in dazed with a Z, play on holiday season. But this is the sampler. So I will be releasing patterns for these other blocks. The Santa block kicked off the series, and then we had the rectangular wreath and the Christmas tree, and now you have a present. And then coming soon will be the snowflake, the elf, the ornament, the candle, and the star. So I hope you've been enjoying those blocks and sewing along. As I explained in videos past, for a long time now, I have been enthralled with the half rectangle triangles. And I'm also using those in my temperature quilt series. So the same units that you saw in the present block and the Santa hat are the ones that I'm using here for my temperature quilt. And Zaza is one of my other quilt friends. She shows up a lot on these live videos. She was asking about, I always put things random places. She was asking about what line to look at on your ruler. Well, if you've got a square ruler, they typically have the 45-degree line, obviously from corner to corner. And then they'll put in the 30-degree line and the 60-degree line. I have not measured the angle on this. I don't think it's 30 degrees or 60 degrees. So I had a special ruler made that has the markings for whatever this exact angle is based on my finished 2x3 rectangles. So if you decided to do a quilt that had like 3x8 inch rectangles in it, or 4x10, some other angle that was not the same ratio as a 2x3, you can't use this ruler. So I originally got started with half rectangle triangles with templates called angle play. And I've got some old videos where I talk about angle play, and the angle play set has 13 different triangle sizes. So you have all sorts of different angles there to make a bunch of different triangles. And the drawback to that is that you have to buy this whole set. And, you know, a lot of people don't like to do that. So you figure out a way to make it work with the rulers you already had. I just realized when I was designing patterns for my Little Bit Different series, they all finished at 6x9 inch blocks. So I could use this ruler over and over. And I've continued designing blocks for this size, which means that this ruler gets a lot of use. So that's just my little pitch there. If you're intrigued by my patterns, it does come in handy, but I totally understand that, you know, we can't always buy all sorts of extra specialty tools. So I do try to make multiple patterns for that one unit. So you're not just, you know, buying a special ruler, using it for one pattern and then never touching it again. But I've also had some videos where I show you how to mark your units if you are not ready to invest in the Little Bit Different ruler. So Lori was asking, do we ever get snow in Arizona? We do. Arizona goes from, you know, the low desert all the way up to high mountains. And so there are places about 2 to 3 hours away from Phoenix, where I live, where you will get snow. And you can go skiing in Arizona. It's just way up north. And I planned in my temperature quilt, I have a kind of a teal blue that I was using for my coldest shades. So if it got cold enough to snow, then I do have a color in my palette that I was ready for that. I would probably try to find a blue and white polka dot. I'm using this multicolor flecked kind of polka dot fabric for my rainy days. So it would be fun to use a similar type of polka dot for my for the rare occasion that there would be snow. I have seen snowflakes on my windshield twice driving around the suburbs of Phoenix, twice in the 30 years I've lived here, but it obviously never gets cold enough to stick around the Phoenix area. But yes, Julianne, Tucson, which I say you go north to snow because I'm thinking of Flagstaff, which is north of Phoenix, but Tucson to the south also has a high mountain peak that gets snow. So that is fun. So I have updated my sheet with all the temperatures through November, but I only have pieces cut out here to finish up this September row. And as you can see, we had a long stretch that was just highs in the 90s, which I'm using orange, and lows in the 80s. So that's kind of our standard September month is, you know, mid 90s. Occasionally we get no, I was using orange for 100-degree days. So it stayed in the triple digits here. It was this peach. I was using a peach color for the 90s, and I ran out. You can see I was substituting this weird shade here. And then I found this fat quarter that had desert imagery on it. So it has cactus, and it had a little like a snake and one of the howling wolves that you see. And just, I thought that was perfect. And since it was a peach background, it made its way into my quilt. And I'm looking, and Tasha and Zaza are saying hello, and good to know that Tasha's coming out of her funk. You know, you lose your sojo, so that you know, we all go through those periods. I'm starting to feel like I'm getting that winter cold coming on, which is crummy. And I know my daughter is going to be sick here in the next week or two because she is all stressed out about finals for this semester. She's about halfway through her undergrad degree, and so she's, you know, up late studying and taking tests all the time, and that's the way that goes. Okay, so step one, for half rectangle triangles, you cut them apart so you have your two triangles, and you always look for mountain peaks. I feel like a broken record when I get started, but you know, there's some people that have never seen half rectangle triangles come together. So next, I've got a light green thread in my machine from earlier today. I meant to swap it out, but you know what? I'm sewing with some green fabric, so we're just gonna let it go. I usually don't worry too much about my piecing thread, as long as it's, you know, not real dark and gonna show through light fabrics. I really don't worry about it. And I planned out all these colors, so I think I've got all the colors that I need for September. So we're gonna do a big chain piecing here of half rectangle triangles. So let me know what your projects have been that you're working on. I know, Zaza, you've been doing some ornaments and different gift bag things. Oh no, Julianne sewed two strips of border fabric and then wondered where her last piece went. I hate it when that happens. Oh, and Julianne's doing the Mystery 50, Mystery 50, which I hear a lot about because Cotton Cuts promotes that, but local shops also sell kits, I guess, for that. Is that how that works? I'm doing the puzzle mystery quilt, so I haven't jumped on the Mystery 50 projects. And Cotton Cuts did agree to send me the blue colorway that I had. That was my first choice. Dreamscape, I think it was called. Okay, Patty was saying there was a problem with ordering the ruler. I will get that checked out as soon as I get back to the computer later tonight. But thank you for using the contact page. Okay, so that is that is the drawback of being a solopreneur, is that when you're running a solo business, you have to be your own tech support and you can't be everywhere at once. So I don't want to take up the time while I am doing my live stream, but just understand that I will get everything figured out on the website and get that back up. Yes, Cindy, I had to have the blue one. And yes, Zaza, that is my has been my saying for most of my life. If it wasn't for the last minute, I'd never get anything done. Okay. So let me warm up my little Aliso iron. I love that thing. And to be able to chain piece, it's kind of a dance I'm going to be doing here, because I want to get the pieces in the right order and attached to my month row. So I will be referring to my master list of the daily temperatures, which I've color coded, and then I'll be able to, work ahead and get some things ready. So I was sewing some patches earlier on this project. Here's another one of that Southwestern. It has a little bear, the swirly, the cactus. This was, if you had it the other way around, it would be a bighorn sheep, but then the cactus is upside down. So they were trying to make their designs in all different directions there. Okay, so next step in this process is pressing, and with half rectangle triangles, I always press my seams open so I don't have so much bulk there on those narrow angled corners. And I know that's a big controversy. Some people would never be caught dead pressing seams open on a quilt. And the reason I always hear is that you can't stitch in the ditch, because then you're not catching fabric, you're only catching thread. Well, I don't always stay in the ditch. So there is that. I've heard people shorten their stitch length to give it some added stability when they're planning to press seams open. But I guess if you were doing a whole quilt and only stitching in the ditch, then you might have some concerns. But I do so many filler designs as well. And I've quilted many quilts in the ditch, even with seams open, and they seem to be holding up. For 10 to 15 years so far. I probably wouldn't do it. Well, I don't know. I was going to say on a quilt for, a kid that was going to get washed a lot. My quilts tend to be piled in the closet, which is an issue for another day. I'm going to be donating and or selling quilts in the new year. So okay. So there. Everything's pressed, and now I'm going to juggle a little bit and move the iron out of the way and trim these up. So as I was saying earlier, I've got a special ruler that is the same size as the blocks I'm making. And I can just lay the diagonal from the ruler right on my seam line, and I don't even really have to think about any measurements. They are good to go. And I make my half rectangle triangles oversize, just so I have plenty of room to trim down and don't have to worry about the angle and all that kind of stuff, because things can go a little weird sometimes with rectangles. They're just not as forgiving as squares, half square triangles. And I just put a new blade in my rotary cutter. Oh my gosh, give yourself the Christmas present of a new blade butter. I'll have to plan ahead for some projects and do all the cutting with this nice fresh blade. It's so funny. I do so many live streams with pre-cuts that don't need any trimming that this always gets a little funny to spend time trimming on a live. Did anyone get one of the quilting advent calendars? I know, Tasha, you've had some advent calendar content. I have in years past, but this year did not plan ahead for that. Hello, Sean. Good to see you. Yes, Zaza said the quilt police scared her with open seams, but she does it with her EPP and has been fine so far. Yeah, you just have to try it and see what works for you. I'm certainly not going to be offended if anybody decides to sew their projects with seams to one side. Okay, so I had 5 orange. Okay, so I need 2 more that are orange and yellow. Okay, so we will do 2 orange and yellow. Let me get those sewn. This one I'm thinking I do want to go back to lighter thread. Well, I sewed that yellow with, no. Luckily, I have a yellow bobbin ready, so I can put that in. And then I will be a good girl and not pull the thread the wrong way through the sewing machine. Put my gray piecing thread back on. That. And quick thread the machine. Okay, there we go. And what did I say? I needed 2. Run a thread tab through. And then we can chain piece, and I've got my dark. Green and okay, so now, like I said, I've got my chain piecing going so that I am working a couple days ahead under my needle, and then I'm adding my pieces to the full monthly row and keeping it all organized with my list of daily temperatures. Okay, so but did I not do enough triangles of that color? I thought I had counted them all out. Oh well. Let me grab my other stack of fabric. Motion warning for the camera. I had things all cut out. I just didn't bring them over to the sewing machine. So I guess I won't get as far as I thought. We may have to have another trimming and ironing session. Okay, so let me count. I had 7 of those. Okay, so that worked, and then we can do this guy. That irritates me because I wanted to have this ready and just whip through September, but it looks like I did not get that planned well enough. Okay, so then I had my not very interesting for the viewers as I mark off what I've done. Okay, and then I have another. Yeah, I need that one, and then we had a day of rain. So you can do these. And it's like every time I try to count how many pieces of which color and get things all organized and just be able to sew, I invariably forget one and have to stop and recount and recut and then I didn't cut any more yellows. Oh my goodness, and this is why I don't work on this project all that often, is because I get myself stuck in not having the pieces that I need to make progress. So we'll do a quick little get these scraps out of the way. So it's just and I definitely need to get another table up here or space set up so that I have a separate pressing and separate trimming during the live, so I'm not fussing with all these mats and boards and all that kind of stuff. So I was thinking earlier this year, I had mentioned Advent calendars. And I think what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to write myself a note, and throughout the year, I'm just going to make little kits. And then so I'm like, I'll build my own Advent calendar, and have every next December I can just sit and sew, and that will be my Advent quilt. Oh, hang on, I need that. Oh, and then the funniest thing, I'm sitting here, the book one evening a few days ago, and I said, no, I borrowed those from the library back when Hunger Games was really popular. But I don't own a copy of them. She's like, oh, darn, I wanted to read that, which gave me a heart attack because my daughter does not read books. She is totally, the TikTok generation that watches everything on video. I really like the Libby app because you can, if you don't mind waiting, it's free. You get all these Kindle books. So I just go through, I've been reading the Jack Reacher series, And it was really funny because like the first maybe 8 books in the series, you had to wait several, 4 to 6 weeks before the next Jack Reacher book would be available on Libby. And then from like book 10 to 18, they were all available. And so I just was able to read all of them. And now I've been waiting forever for book 20 and 21. So that slowed me down. And I think I saw Jess in here earlier. So blessed by Jess. She is usually live several times a week with William over at, somebody help me out. Tasha, what's William's channel? I'm totally blanking. My So-Called Life. That might, yeah. I thought of it just as you typed it. So anyway, Jess and William are live on My So-Called Life, but because of the time change, he's in California. The clocks fell back, and so California and Arizona are not on the same time zone in the winter. So then it's an hour later, and that's my bedtime. So I'm sorry, Jess, I don't catch you guys live as much anymore. Okay, which is really amazing because Jess is on the East Coast, so she's up very, very late. I have never been a night owl. That was, I would open myself up for all the pranks at sleepovers as a kid because I was always the first one to fall asleep. Okay, so now I'm 2 peach and green, and then orange and green, orange and yellow. So I need another orange and yellow. Did I make one in a different color? Yes. So I can put that there, and then we need orange and green. And then we got our rain. Okay, so I can trying to chain piece as I go here. So it's, like I said, it's quite a dance to keep track of everything. It would be a good, a better idea if I made all the units, laid them out, and then was just able to sew. But, I don't plan ahead very well. Okay, so that was those 2, and then I need another orange and yellow. But I had my 2. Yay! Okay, we're getting there. And the other thing that messes with my brain is that the worksheet puts the high temperature on the left-hand column, and I put my high temperature color on the top right of my block. So it's like I have to switch back and forth with the layout of the colors, which seems like a little thing, but it slows down your processing time. That's why it's so handy to have my ruler with the markings, because I don't have to take that extra second to think about it. I just can go. And this month is going to look a little bit strange just because of the values of the colors I chose. the green is so much darker than the yellow and the orange that it doesn't make you feel like it's cooling off really, but we will see. Okay, so then I had my 2 peaches, and then I can go to, and then yet again, I don't have the right colors sewn together. Well, that is a bummer, but we will just work ahead to the last. There's just going to be a gap. I'm not going to be able to finish, but I can do these last few days. We had 2 days in a row of rain at the end of September. And then I'm excited to get the October and November rows put together because it was so unusual. We had 5 straight days of rain in both of those months. It was the wettest fall that Arizona has seen in 100 years. Okay, so after that 1 day of rain, then I need this. Oh, and did I sew that upside down? I sure did. See how the orange is touching the peach? Don't want the orange touching the peach. The orange needs to touch the yellow. So out comes the seam ripper. And I'm just doing this individually tonight. Sometimes I, cut the stitches from the back side of the fabric and then pull them apart. But this one I'm slowing down. Get all my threads off. Okay, so now okay, so this is as far as I can go on the long strip. I can add one more piece here because we had okay, so here is what September looks like we had the beginning of the month, pretty consistent temperatures. The green is it's cooling off. And then we had some more rain at the end of the month. And then there's a gap here because I don't have the colors cut. And then we had our, oh, I think it goes this. Yeah, it'll go that way. We ended the month here with more greens in there. So I'll get my other, pick up pieces off the floor, get my other pieces cut, and be able to get September finished up, and then a couple more sessions. And I should be I feel pretty good about having this together early in January. You know, obviously I can't have it done by the end of the year because we need the data from the last day. But look at this color coding over here. It's all the same color for 2 months. So that should go pretty quick. I won't have as many scrambles of, you know, what color comes next and why didn't I cut enough pieces for that. But thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to end it here and be ready for another day of Quiltmas at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Look for that premiere at April's Craft Room. Lots of live videos throughout the week, and I hope everybody has a lovely evening, a wonderful week, and a beautiful holiday season. Until next time, take care.